This Zoom update got everybody looking real good and sharp. Not that you already didn't look good, but it just really emphasized your beautiful features.
I like the hat.
Thank you. I'm honoring someone that made this, crocheted this today.
Beautiful. Karima, let me know when we have
Yes.
everyone. Or
1 minute. I think we're good in 1 minute. I just want to acknowledge that we have Zoe and Priscilla, our former interns who are helping me today. They're volunteering today with me, with us. So I just want to acknowledge them. And we also have our new intern, Jason Park. Member Lovett will give a little introduction a little bit later. So I just want to acknowledge those people. And I think we're live on Facebook. Yes, we're ready.
so we get started then?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, everyone. And we're going to call to order the meeting of the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee for Wednesday, January 27th, 2021. Let me begin by wishing everyone a very happy new year. This is the first meeting of the new year of 2021, and hoping that everyone is healthy and safe, and the very best wishes to all of you for this new year. We survived 2020. It was a very challenging year, and many folks that unfortunately are no longer with us for 2020. And keeping them in mind, we're hoping for a better 2021. So with that, I'm going to now turn it to our Madam Recording Secretary to call the roll.
Great, thank you, Chair Campos, and Happy New Year, everyone. All right, Member John Avalos. Member Baraka.
Here.
Member Barry.
Here.
Member Chair Campos.
Present.
Member Chen.
Here.
Member Dufty.
Here.
Member Galata.
Here.
Member Haney.
Present.
Member Ibanez.
Present.
Member Jane Kim. Member Lacroix. Member Lee, I'm here. Member Loftus.
Present.
Oxy.
Thank you. Member Lovett.
Sure.
Member Lovett. Member
Here.
Mahogany.
Here.
Member Mandelman. Member Marr.
Here by proxy.
Member Maliga.
Here by proxy.
Thank you. Member Morales.
Here.
Member Raju.
Here.
Member Ronan. Member Thomas. Member Tung.
Here.
Here.
Member Williams.
Here.
And then on to ex officio, Member Feinstein.
Here by proxy.
Member Pelosi.
Here by proxy.
Member Spear. Member Kounalakis.
Here by proxy.
Member Ma. Member Cohen.
Proxy.
Member Weiner.
Present by proxy.
Member Ting.
Proxy.
Here. Yeah, here by proxy as well.
Good to see you, Assembly Member. And Member David Chu.
Proxy.
Great. And then just to check back, Member Avalos. Member Kim. Member Lacroix?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, great, thanks. Sorry. Member Lacroix? Member Lovett? Member Mandelman? Member Ronan? Member Thomas?
Here.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, really quickly, Member Ma is here as well.
Okay, Ma is here by proxy.
Sorry, is my speaker working? Member Levitt.
I can hear you now. Thanks, Lee.
Great, thank you. We will now move on to the next item, which is the approval of the meeting agenda. And colleagues, you have the meeting agenda, except that I think that we want to make a couple of amendments. And one of them would be to move up the item for the California budget report by Assemblymember Ting, by the chair of the Budget Committee for the Assembly, to move that up right before, actually, to move it up so that it's right after approval of the meeting minutes. So it will be before public comment. And then to move item number 5, which is the presentation by the candidates for state party offices, to move that after the presentation on the budget and before public comment. I think there has been a request to do that given people's schedules. So if I can have a motion to
Chair
amend.
Campos?
Yes.
Sorry. I think we just need to amend for one item, which is the budget of Assemblymember Ting, because I received different requests that actually candidates will come late. So it's actually better to do it after public comment.
Okay, so I see. So what's in the chat is incorrect. We're going to take public comment before the candidate interviews. So the motion would be, if someone would make it, to amend the proposed agenda to just move up the presentation by Assemblymember Ting right after the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
So we have a motion by Duffy to approve the agenda with that amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Galata. Can we take that without objection? Without objection, the agenda for today's meeting is approved as amended. We will now move to item number 3, which is the approval of the October 28th, 2020 minutes. So we have the minutes for the October 28th, 2020 meeting of the DCCC. We have them before you. If we could have a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Almost, yeah, I just want to make a friendly amendment. As a recording secretary, I missed a few folks who sponsored different items. I think that if you want to just write in chat, if you did sponsor any of the resolutions and your name is missing, just let me know. You can let me know afterwards and we can make sure that the file minutes are reflective of everyone's sponsor, but that was it.
So is your motion, so the motion by Duffy includes that friendly amendment, Member Duffy?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we can have a second. Can someone speak
I'll
up?
second that then. Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, so our secretary seconds it. Can we take that without objection? Without objections, the minutes as amended of the October 28th, 2020 meeting are approved. Thank you very much. We'll now move up to the next item on the agenda as amended, and that is a presentation by our very own Assembly Member Phil Ting, who also plays a very, very important role of chairing the Budget Committee for the California State Assembly. So with that, Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours for the presentation, and thank you for coming here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Campos. Thank you so much, Chair Campos, and it's great to see so many familiar, friendly faces. I just wanted to take an opportunity to just give everybody a quick budget update as we go into our new year. And it's been quite a crazy ride, what I will say. over this last year, when we started last year's budget process, we thought we had a few $billion of surplus. And then, of course, we went into March and we started shutting down and our revenues plummeted. And we went from a few $billion surplus to a $54 billion deficit. And we had to make some very difficult decisions on what to do. And what we didn't want to do was repeat the mistakes that we made during the last recession, which was to really make devastating cuts on the backs of working families and so many working people in California. And what I mean by that is we laid off state workers. We made cuts to education. We made cuts to public health. We made cuts to human services. So at a time when families really needed our help the most, that was a time where we had to make very difficult decisions. But I think, in essence, some decisions that could have been stalled. And so going into this last budget deficit of $54 billion, we took a hard look and we made some short-term choices to not make any cuts. Let me just first say, our state workers were phenomenal. They all took pay cuts. They stepped up to the plate. Those were all bargained. And so they stepped up to the plate and sacrificed their salaries to help close that budget deficit. We did deferrals instead of cuts to schools, so about $12 billion of deferrals. And why that's important is with deferrals, districts were allowed to borrow that money. It's not ideal because they have to pay interest and they got penalties, but instead of they borrowed instead of having to do cuts. And so that meant teachers were not laid off, paraprofessionals were not laid off, staff, custodians were not laid off. And so we really wanted to keep the layoffs to an absolute minimum. We also did not do cuts in healthcare. We did not do cuts in human services programs like in-home support services. We had a number of our senior centers on the chopping block. We preserved those. So we really fought back to make sure that was a budget that we as San Franciscans could be very proud of. We did do some cuts. So we had cuts in areas where we thought not ideal, but places where we could withstand those cuts. So higher education did get some cuts, UC, CSU, but again, they have opportunities to raise fees. They did have reserves, a way to kind of cushion that fall. Our court system did take some cuts, unfortunately, but we also felt like they were better positioned. We just didn't want to cut services to families who really had nowhere to turn. During a pandemic is really when you need government the most. So we were watching out for families who didn't have credit cards, couldn't go to the bank for a loan, couldn't look for family members to help. And so we were able to weather that storm. Going into this year's budget, I had fully anticipated this year's budget being the most difficult budget that we would have to face. And I was very pleasantly surprised. The economy has done better than we had thought. As some of you may know, our state budget is heavily reliant on income taxes. About 2/3 of our money comes from income taxes. And the most of that money comes from people who make over $500,000. I'm sure it's no surprise to all of you, but the people who make over $500,000 haven't been hurt by this pandemic. In fact, they've done quite well. The stock market's at an all-time high. And so our revenues have significantly exceeded what we thought they would be. In fact, as of right now, I believe we have $19 billion in additional revenue in the bank, and our legislative analyst anticipates about $24 billion in the bank that we're going to be able to get. And so what we're working with the governor on is trying to figure out how to take some of that excess money and get it back to the people who are been the most hard hit. We want to get it back to working families in the form of the earned income tax credit. It's a great tax credit for people who work but make under $30,000 a year. So we're looking at a very large, mid-year adjustment to increase the amount of the earned income tax credit. We know there's so many small businesses. We just walk down any of our streets, whether it's Clement or Mission, Valencia, Irving, any of those streets that we just walk down, we see so many businesses shuttered. So we're looking to send billions of dollars in small business grants to those shuttered businesses to help them get through the next couple months. We also have a proposal to try to get school districts money to help them reopen up, give them the resources they need. Now, we got the feedback on the governor's proposal from our districts and from many of our friends in terms of the labor organizations, that how the proposal is not quite a fit, and we're definitely taking that feedback to make sure that it's going to work, not just for the schools that are open, but really help the districts that aren't open and really work on many of those concerns as well. And so going into the budget, we want to make sure that we continue to pass a budget that prioritizes, again, our working families who are relying on Medi-Cal and Medicare. They rely on CalWORKS and CalFresh for money and for food, and they rely on government to help them get through the day. Again, one of our biggest problems continues to be around housing and homelessness. So there is more money for affordable housing. There is more money for homelessness in this budget. Those were priorities before the pandemic. They're definitely going to be priorities after the pandemic. And then lastly, while this is an issue that doesn't touch us completely directly, although it touches our air quality, it's really around money for wildfires, making sure there's adequate money for vegetation management and climate change, and reducing our greenhouse gases so that we don't feel the effects of climate change as much. We know that we can definitely continue to be leaders in this area, and our budget really does reflect that. So I just wanted to stop by, give a quick update, but more importantly, just see if you had any questions, comments, thoughts. Would love to take any and all questions that you had.
I think Member Barry had a question, Mr. Chairman. Member Barry.
Hi, Mr. Ting. It was nice to meet you at one of Connie Chan's events.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to know if there's been any effort made towards defunding the police to get more revenue, especially towards education, which California still only does 50% per pupil that New York does, 50% of the rate they do. Any effort towards that?
Yeah, great question. Almost all the law enforcement funding comes at local city governments. And so much of that money, the majority of that money is really city and county governments. Now, what I have been championing for the last 5 years as budget chair is really looking at closing prisons. That is really our corrections budget. Unfortunately, when I took over as budget chair, and as we were coming out of a recession, our corrections budget was basically the same as our budget for higher education. Absolutely embarrassing. Both budgets were around $10, $11 billion. And can you imagine, we're spending $11 billion. Now it's about, I think it's $13 billion on incarcerating about 120,000 people. It works out to be almost $100,000 per person. I mean, think about, if we were spending $100,000 per individual, think about what we could do to change their life. And so not only are we, running these antiquated prison systems, we're not really doing anything to help change their lives in terms of rehabilitation. So we've been working, the governor announced the closing of 2 prisons. Very excited about seeing one prison closed in 2 years and another prison closed in 3 years, looking at trying to take some of those cost savings and really repurpose that to all the issues that we care about, which are education, healthcare, making sure that people are getting their food, affordable housing. So those are very much top of mind as we look to reduce and part of that, just to remind all of us, the reason we can do that is we have passed a number of progressive criminal justice reforms, Prop 47, Prop 57, basically all those tough on crimes initiatives. All they got was just people with longer prison sentences, didn't make us any safer. And what we've seen is, as we've really reformed our system, we see fewer people in prison, and we see, frankly, our city streets are actually safer as long as we're doing the proper rehabilitation. So, we are very sensitive to how we can reduce the amount we're spending on corrections, spending more money on rehabilitation, and trying to get better results so we don't see people come back.
Great. Thank you very much, Chair Ting. I don't see any other comments, but I do want to say that we appreciate the fact that you came to inform us about this. And quite frankly, we're very lucky that San Francisco has you in this role. So thank you for looking out for the interests of the city. and especially in these difficult times. And hopefully you can come back once it's over to report on how things went. But thank you very much, and we appreciate the report.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And again, thanks to everybody for all your service. I know it's a very challenging time to serve, but really appreciate everyone for putting in the time to make our city the great city it is, and also for really supporting our party. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Assembly Member. And we will now move on to item number 4, which is general public comment. And I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, who will be running that portion of the meeting with the help of Priscilla, Jason, and Zoe, our incredible former and current interns. We appreciate your help, your support. And thank you for coming back, those of you who left and are still helping us. And under our bylaws, rules, you have up to 2 minutes per speaker. If you are able to make your point in less than that, please feel free. But with that, I'll turn it over to our Executive Director, Farima Lynch.
Thank you, Chair Campos. So if you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function. You can find it at the bottom of your screen. If you don't find it, no worries. You can just send me or send in the chat your name and that you wish to do a public comment, and I will bring you on. So just right now you're on the public side, so we cannot see you or hear you, but as soon as I'm going to bring you on the panelist side, please make sure to turn on your mic. And if you want to turn on your video, it's really up to you. So we're gonna start with Wendy Aragon, and just after we have Sasana Yi and Anne Seaman. So I'm gonna bring you on, Wendy.
Hi there, everyone. Sorry, I'm also cooking dinner at this time. But I just wanted, I'm Wendy Aragon. I'm the president of Richmond District Democratic Club. As you know, it's been a really hard year for clubs. We haven't been able to have that social engagement that we've wanted to have as much as we'd like to. But tomorrow is our annual winter social, start the new year with RDDC at 6:30. It's on Zoom. I put the link in the comments. I can put it in again. But it is our annual membership push, and we have elected speakers. I believe that Assembly Member Ting will be there tomorrow. Connie Chan will be there. We'll also be presenting the first time a really amazing award for a volunteer who has done outstanding work in our community. It's a surprise, so I can't announce who it is, but we would love to have members of the DCCC there to support us and help us, kick this new year off, and hopefully here's to a better 2021 where we can all be together again and be really resolute in our activism.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Now we have Sasana Yi, and just after we're gonna have Anne Seaman and Wilson Chu.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Sasana. I'm a resident in Visitation Valley, and I'm here to request your support of the renaming of Visitation Valley Playground to be Yit Oi Huang Peace and Friendship Park in honor of my grandmother who was attacked at the park and subsequently died of her injuries in 2019. She passed away in 2020, just last year. This attack and her death has really left a big hole in my heart and has activated me to seek healing and also advocate for the healing of our community. And the project has really garnered a diverse amount of support from our community. We have collected over 200 signatures in our neighborhood alone, and over 800 signatures through change.org. And this is a way for our community to unite and start healing. And this actually, this project was initiated by Ronald Coulters, an African-American community leader in Visitation Valley. And this is, he brought this to my attention, and I was so moved by his generosity, his sincerity. And so we're working together to push for this rename to honor a woman who's an immigrant, who's a worker, who's a citizen, and who has contributed a lot to Visitation Valley and the city of San Francisco. And so I'd like to close with thank you to Nancy, actually, for bringing this issue to the DCCC's attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, we have Ann Seaman. And just after, we have Wilson Chu, Bayard Fong, and Siwi Mo. Ann, can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm new to this technology here. I'm here to support Susanna and our team and Nancy Tung's resolution for the renaming of our playground as Yik Oi Huang Peace and Friendship Park. We are horrified into action around this, really. I've been active a long time in park and open space issues. Here, I see the video now. Okay, I co-founded the Visitation Valley Greenway and also helped organize our community to get parks and playgrounds revitalized many, many years ago in the 90s when my daughter was a baby. So I well understand how open space is important to building a cohesive community, and sadly realize that we have a lot more work to do to make our parks truly safe and welcoming and inclusive for everybody. So we're united in this effort. It's important to take further steps, I'd say, in the rename isn't about putting a person on a pedestal, but it's about honoring her as the catalyst to action that will revitalize the park in ways that it hasn't ever lived up to its potential. We need to have more programming, more deliberate programming that will make it safer for elders to come out and exercise early in the morning. We want to be sure that all ages, abilities, all races, everyone feels welcome there. And we want to also deliberately develop programs that foster multicultural, multi-generational friendship. So it's really much more than a renaming. And I feel like it's crucial that we follow through, and our community is very committed to this effort. So thank you for
Thank you, Anne. Time's up. Thank you.
Okay.
Next speaker, we have Wilson Chu, and just after, get ready, Bayard Fong, Siwi Mo, and Susan Pfeiffer. Wilson?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, was on and then I got kicked out and now I'm back. Trying to start my video and there I go. Hello everybody, yes, my name is Wilson Chu. I am the past president of the Chinese American Democratic Club. I'm also here speaking on behalf of the renaming of the Visitation Valley Playground in memory of Grandma Huang. You know, Visitation Valley is a neighborhood that has amazing residents, but it never receives attention as some of the other neighborhoods in our city, and never receives the resources that it should receive. It's a thriving neighborhood with challenges, such as the events that occurred with Grandma Huang. But a special thing has happened around this event. Many members of the community have stepped forward to provide support to the Huang family and to Sasani. In return, Sasani reciprocated and embraced the community. She chose to focus on the goodness of the community that the community has to offer, and not on divisiveness. The renaming of Visitation Valley Playground would not only honor Grandma Huang, but also honor the work and the camaraderie that the Visitation Valley community has exhibited in the way that they have come together and embraced each other. And I think that is something that's very important to be able to recognize, and it's something that every neighborhood within our city should recognize as well. I hope that you will support the renaming of Visitation Valley in honor of the community as well as Grandma. Thank you.
Thumbs up. Thank you. Next speaker, Baria Fong. And just after, we have Siwi Mo and Susan Pfeiffer and Jennifer Werby. Hello? Yes? We can see you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Good evening, distinguished members of the DCCC. My name is Bayard Fong. Actually, I have the pleasure and honor to serve as staff to the Human Rights Commission for 34 years and retired about 3 years ago. The work at HRC, of course, was trying to help build communities in San Francisco that would be working together and striving together and growing together. I hope that the DCCC will support this name change because I think it's kind of like a catalyst to help stimulate a connecting of two important communities in San Francisco to work together and have children playing together, and that the multiculturalism and the multi-generational element to it is potential can be actually fulfilled in this example and hopefully be spread out through the rest of the city. There's this theme that we hope it'll help to create the symphony for humanity. So at the Human Rights Commission, we talk about all of us working together in San Francisco. The renaming of this park hopefully will also start there, helping to create this symphony for our humanity in San Francisco in Visitation Valley. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you will support this renaming. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, we have Siwi Mo. No. We have Susan Pfeiffer. And just after, we have Jennifer Weber, Jordan Davis, Jessica Campos. Susan? We cannot hear you. Let me.
I'm muted.
You're good. You're good.
Am I live? Hello, everybody. Happy New Year to the San Francisco DCCC. And quickly, the speaker who may come after me is Siwi Mo, is how he pronounces his name. And he's a good friend. I wanted to talk a little bit about the subject we've all been talking about, and it's the ADEMS, and that I am very proud to be running on the slate endorsed by Phil Ting. And I know there are some of you on the committee that have either voted for me and or the slate. And I just wanted to say thank you. I really appreciate the support. One of our slate members is Alan Wong, who was just sworn in as a trustee at City College. And for those of you who don't know, he's a member of the National Guard. He was sent to Sacramento last week to avoid any riots breaking out. And he came back with COVID. And he has symptoms. So I think he'll be fine, but we want to wish him the very, very best. And lastly, I want to thank Edward Wright, who's representing my supervisor, for going out of his way, both of you, to help us with an issue we're having on the lower grade highway. And we've been very pleased and impressed with the detail and the efforts and the patience you've had with us and your help. And lastly, I'm just going to be excited to endorse David Campos for chair of the California Democratic Party. It's exciting to have one of our own be a candidate this year, and I'm looking forward to that. And that is it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Susan. Next speaker, we have Siwi Mo. I don't know why it's not working when I bring you on. I think it's working now. You here? Can you
Thank you
hear
so
it?
much. It works now.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate Karima. Well, my name is Siyu Mo, and by the way, thank you so much for everyone who's serving on DCCC. I really admire your work, and Happy New Year. I'm calling today as a friend of Sasana to support the renaming of Visitation Valley Playground to be Yik Oi Huang Peace and Friendship Park. I've learned so much from Sasana in the past couple of years about the idea of being abundance to this world, abundance of love, abundance of compassion, and the idea that when tragedies strike, our response and what we do after will decide and dictate the long-term consequences and outcome of the situation. So I really believe that renaming this park will serve as a down payment for a better future, and it will further solidify the peace and friendship that have been built in the past 2 years in the neighborhood. So I hope the DCCC will vote in support of the resolution, and have a good night. Happy New Year. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you. Next speaker, we have Jennifer. Yes, Jennifer. And just after, we have Jordan Davis, Jessica Campos, and Josephine So. Jennifer, you here with us?
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I guess my video is not working, but I also am a voice speaking up for the Yik Oi Huang renaming of the park as a peace and friendship park. I'm a landscape architect, and I started working in the Visitation Valley in 2015, and in Visitation Valley Elementary School, which is right next door. And I was shocked to see how the children who needed, and the community who needed the greatest resources, the most amount of programming, the most amount of intervention for their health and well-being, had the least of pretty much all the schools I had been in the city as a landscape architect, working on green schoolyards. And so we were working as a community, I had a small community group, and people were talking about how it used to be. There was programming, there was always games going on, children outside playing, and what we were seeing was always just an empty park. Yet Susanna's grandmother, brave woman, would go out there early in the morning and exercise by herself, and she was never afraid. Marlene Tran, who was her immigration teacher so she could learn how to speak English and write English so she could become a American citizen, said she was never, Grandma Huang was never afraid, and she had this radiant smile that lights up the world. And so in our goal of renaming it, it's to honor a Chinese American woman. I don't think there's any other park in San Francisco named after a Chinese American woman, and she's a emblematic immigrant for the work that she's done to be where she was right now. To have her taken down like this was so tragic. And in our work with community, we heard lots of people say, well, there's other pain. And so we realized that there have been so many murders, so much injustice in the Valley. And so we also are promoting with the San Francisco Recreation and Park that they have Hertz Memorial Gym, this new Hertz Memorial Gym, be a memorial gym honoring both people who have been injured and attacked or killed, as well as people who have really served the community.
Time's up. Thank you, Jennifer. Next speaker, we have Jordan Davis. And just after, we have Jennifer Campos, Josephine Zhao, Thomas Namara. Can you?
Yes,
you're here.
Thank you. My name's George Davis, she, her pronouns, and I'm someone who likes to do a lot of walking for candidates. And I want to talk about something like Happy New Year. Hope this is better for everyone. I wanted to talk about something that really hasn't gotten much attention in terms of the party's inner workings. I was glad to see progressives win this committee, and I was glad to see like a lot of progressive recommendations. But I'm just, I was just like, shocked. And one of the reasons I couldn't move the Democratic Party card was because like the state forces us to endorse that, put on their card their candidate, the state party's candidates, like namely like for state senator and state representative in Congress. And I just think that I know it's something that the party itself cannot control, but I just think that like, state legislative and congressional races, even though they're dealing with state and federal issues, are still local races. So what I'd like to see is a resolution calling for more autonomy for the for us to make endorsements in state senator and state assembly races, because I think that that at least in or Congress, and I think at least one of them, they would have the DCCC as it was like then would have come to a different conclusion. So I really want to see like more localized decision making. I'd like to see more fairness and elevating local decision making in the electoral recommendations, and that's just something that I'd like to see like the committee like advancing and urging the state party to allow for. So I yield my time.
Thank you, Jordan. Next speaker, we have Jessica Campos, and just after we have Josephine Zhao and Thomas Namara. Hello. I think we lost her. So I'm gonna go on and call Josephine Zhao. Josephine?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
It's kind of swapped. Thank you, everyone. Hi, DCCC and Chair Campos. My name is Josephine Zhao. I'm the Vice President of Chinese American Democratic Club. Our club's new president, Bia Fong, who just spoke in support of the this Valley Park renaming after Sasana's grandma. Sasana's family have been members of our club for the past couple of years. Grandma Huang is an exemplary member of our community and ambassador of Visitation Valley. While she was alive, she visited all the public community centers and brought big smiles and positive attitudes to the diverse communities there. She was a bridge between the African American and other Asian communities to the Chinese community. Her death from an unprovoked attack by a youth was very tragic, and we cannot let her death to be in vain. We have to bring closure and healing to our communities and continue to raise awareness of the violence targeting the Chinese senior members. We're in support of the initiative led by Ronald Cothers, an African-American leader, to rename the park in remembrance of Grandma Yik Oi Huang. I hope that you could support the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. And last speaker, so if you want to do public comment, please raise your hand or mention it in the chat if you cannot use the function raise hand. Right now I have the last speaker, and it's Thomas.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am Thomas Namara. I am the Southeast Area Manager at San Francisco Parks Alliance, and I too am here to voice my support for the renaming of the Visitation Valley Playground. Parks and public space are vital infrastructure, and I think we're seeing that at the national level and in the recent months due to the COVID pandemic and everyone enjoying their parks. But you know, the best investment we can make in our communities and in our parks and their recreation programs and their education programs, and especially our young people. And this renaming effort in Visitation Valley is a small piece of that project. And the best way to remedy injustice is to move forward and invest in our undersupported and under-resourced communities. So I'd strongly encourage everyone here to support the resolution and keep the work going on that project. So thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. I think that was our last speaker. So I turn it to you, Chair Campos.
Thank you very much to our executive director, and again to Priscilla, Jason, and Zoe, our amazing interns, for helping facilitate the public comment that happens through Zoom. We will now, and before I move on to the next item, I also want to thank everyone who takes time out of their busy schedules to come and speak to the DCCC. It is something that is really important to the work that we do, and we really appreciate the fact that people do that. And I know that there will be a number of items we'll be acting upon that people spoke about, but we're just very, very honored to have you here. We'll now move on to the next item, which is a presentation by various candidates that are running for different offices within the California Democratic Party. And before I call that item, I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to ask our first vice chair, Leah Lacroix, if she could step in and run that portion of the meeting, simply because, as people know, I myself am a candidate for vice chair, second vice chair of the California Democratic Party. I'm not speaking today, and that candidate, that office is not presenting. No one for that office is presenting, but I just want to be completely impartial and transparent, and I just don't want to have any questions about that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leah Lacroix, and I know for all the candidates that are out there, for different offices, we will make sure that every candidate has an opportunity to present before this DCCC, not just tonight, but actually for the next coming meeting. So with that, I'll turn it over to our first vice chair, Leah Lacroix.
Thank you so much, Chair Campos. So again, we're on item 5. The first candidate we have is Delane Easton, who is running for the California Democratic Party chair. We will have 2 minutes for candidate presentations, and then another 2 minutes after for candidates to answer any questions from members of the DCCC.
Member Lacroix, actually there were so many county central committees at the same time, so the order is a little bit different now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so we're gonna start. I think right now we have Betty Yee, who's running for California Democratic Party vice chair.
Okay, well, we'll go with Betty Yee.
Thank you.
No problem.
So I'm bringing them on to the panel side.
Hi, good evening, San Francisco Democrats.
Hi.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me some time to speak this evening. First of all, I hope everyone's staying safe during these really turbulent times weather-wise, and obviously staying safe and healthy with this COVID crisis as well. I am pleased to be announcing my candidacy for CDP first vice chair. And you probably are wondering what a statewide constitutional officer is doing running for a leadership position with the Democratic Party. And what I will say is this, this is a time for the party to really right focus and be the party that is the standard bearer for economic and racial equity. Being the largest Democratic Party in the United States, we have to set the example and the model for what equity truly means. And that means that we are delivering results for all Californians, that we are electing representatives that look like all of our diverse communities in California. And as your vice chair, I will be looking at the leadership structure of the party to be sure that we have year-round presence in all parts of the state, and that we are looking to also combat the forces that we saw who stormed our U.S. Capitol. They are here, right here in California, and frankly, Democrats in those areas of the state really need our support as well. So this is a way just for me to give back in terms of my leadership to the party. My roots are in the party. I've raised a lot of money for the party, and this is a way to put that infrastructure in place for the term that I will be serving as vice chair. I have tremendous support from the labor community, from members of the legislature, and also from many of our grassroots delegates because of my ongoing activism. And on that, I just want to thank all of you for delivering our victory on November 3rd, but also for what you did to deliver the victory on the 2 Senate seats in Georgia. So let's continue to work together. I know that we can be a California that can lift everyone up. And if anything has been really so much more evident here in California, and that is the growing inequality, the growing divide that we can bridge if we just keep equity and racial and economic justice at the core of everything we do as a party. So with that, I look forward to your support, and we will be reaching out personally. I have Sandra Lowe, who's managing my campaign. She will put some information in the chat, and really look forward to your support. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Betty Yee. So we have time now for questions from members of the DCCC. Please put your name in and write STACK in the chat box so I'll know who to call on first. But first off, we have Member Barry.
Thank you, Vice Chair LaCroix. Hello, Betty. Thank you for having the courage to run. My question is this. Black people are the most loyal demographic to the Democratic Party, but yet the Democratic Party doesn't really seem to address issues that affect the Black community. What issue would you like to see addressed through the California Democratic Party?
Thank you, Gloria. Well, first off, I think representation matters. And so what I'm going to be looking for as I continue to work with Democrats all across the state is, where are the Black leaders that are ready to, really rise up and to be in our elected offices? We've always talked about the party building a farm team and being sure that we have representation candidates to run at the ready. But frankly, I would like to see candidates coming out of the labor movement. I want to see candidates who are really understand the lived experiences of California today, and particularly those who have been just so neglected and have not been, really at the receiving end of many of the benefits that have lifted, other Californians up. So, when I talk about equity, it's about equity with respect to disproportionately affected communities, economically, environmentally, but also equity of place. There are parts of California, frankly, where we know that the demographics are changing, and we need to think about electing people who look like those communities. And the Black community has been underrepresented. And what I want to see there is just at every level of leadership, if we can put racial and economic equity at the heart of everything we do, there's no reason why we can't get that representation up and leadership from the Black community to be what we focus on in all parts of California.
Next up, we have Member Galata.
Thank you, Vice Chair LaCroix. Thank you, Betty, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
My question is, in the November election, there was a lot that we had to celebrate, but there were also some kind of disappointments particularly with the state ballot measure.
Yes, exactly.
That the California Democratic Party supported,
yes.
Not seeing those get over the finish line. So curious your thoughts of what we can do to get Prop 13 reform, addressing affirmative action, rent control. How do we make sure that the next time the party endorses those policies, we win?
That's a great question, Peter. And I think there's still analysis out about what truly happened. From my perspective, there was so much emphasis on the presidential election, right? From being able to vote early to vote safely, the assault on the post office. And so you saw a lot of drop off by the time people, got to the bottom of the ballot. In fact, people never reached the bottom of the ballot. So we got the president elected, but we should have gotten 15, 16, 22, all of those measures on our side. Here's what I would say. 2022 is not a presidential year, but frankly, regardless of whether it is or not, these are the issues we have to be talking to people about year round, how it affects our lives every single day. Why, when we are not protecting gig workers, that's like really a stain on our whole economy. And why, when we don't have affirmative action, we continue to not have, to attain equity and justice, as Gloria just raised, with respect to what we can do for our Black brothers and sisters. And so this has to be a year-round effort of where we are messaging about why this matters to people. So that's what I commit to do as your vice chair.
Thank you so much, Betty. We're out of time, but I encourage all of our members to follow up with Betty and her campaign team if they have any additional questions that they would love to have answered.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, and there's information in the chat. Thank you, Chairman Campos.
Thanks. Next up, we have Diana Love, who is a candidate for the California Democratic Party Secretary. Again, we have 2 minutes for our presenter to speak about herself, and then we have another 2 minutes for questions and answers from members of the committee.
So Diana Love is with us. We can see her and hear her. Perfect.
Good evening, everyone. I went away for a moment. Good evening. Again, my name is Diana Love, and I am the current Region 9 Regional Director, and that is for Assembly Districts 26, 33, 36, and 40. And that covers 5 counties, Los Angeles, parts of Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Kern, Tulare, and Inyo. I currently live in Palmdale, been there for about 20 plus years. I have a degree in gerontology. And most importantly, I want you to know that I support Medicare for All and the Green New Deal and student loan cancellation. And I support having the next generation of leadership within the Democratic Party, which is essential to hear your voice and what you have to say, because you are our future. So why I'm running is based on my work history and my public service of leadership. And I'm very confident that I can help to strengthen the relationship between the constituents and the state party. Some of the involvement I have in the state party, I'm involved in several of the caucuses, the Women's Caucus, LGBT, Children, Progressive, Latino, Senior, Chicano, Latino, and a host of other different caucuses. I'm currently appointed by Governor Newsom to the Contractors State License Board, and I'm also the chair of the Public Affairs Committee under that appointee. I'm also a member of SEIU 2015, and I previously worked for the California State Assembly. Some of the other commissions and boards I've been on in the past and currently, presently, for several different organizations, and I've worked on campaigns and been a campaign manager, and I've done some fundraising. Currently, I am the vice chair and the past secretary to the Los Angeles County Democratic Party. And I look forward to bringing my experiences of leadership, again, as I said, for what I call shared governance and transparency. We all need to foster the trust and advance our policies to improve the lives of all of us, including the next generation. And the party itself stands for diversity and equity, and that it is imperative. And as a Black woman, I look forward to serving in that position and to serve every community with dignity and respect. And I would be honored to have your support and endorsement. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Diana Love. Now it's time for questions from our committee members. Is there anyone who has a question for Ms. Love? Please write your name in the chat. Well, I have a question for you, Ms. Love. what is inspiring you to run for the secretary position, and kind of can you elaborate more on the leadership and skills and things that you want to bring to this role?
Well, what I want to bring to this role, as I said, is about working with the rest of the leadership team. I believe that we should have more training, we should have more workshops, we should make it easier for people to talk about what their barriers and obstacles are and to bring their ideas. I want to be there to listen to what people think can improve the party. Through this process that we're going through now, like the ADEM, there is so much going on. There is so much that people are upset about. And to me, one of the things that I think that the secretary should be doing is that all the information that goes out from the party, the secretary should be reviewing that information. That's what a secretary does. I mean, you catch errors, you're like a brainstorming thing. You think about what could happen when it does happen, because we've had a lot of hiccups, I will call, for the ADEM process. And I think a lot of that information could have been stopped before it happened. We've had extensions. I mean, as regional director, I feel like the extensions, a lot of the things, the changes, the regional director should have gotten it first. I got it in some cases last. The constituents called and told me what was going on. And so I just think we have to work more closely together to get things done. We have to talk to one another. So that to me is important. And out here where I live in the Antelope Valley and the Inland Empire, there has not been anyone that I can remember as far back as 20 years or more that has been up on that platform to represent the areas. And we need to have people that look like us in our communities to work for us. So that's what I want to do. But it's all about listening. It's a listening skill and reviewing.
All right. Okay, just making sure I wasn't on mute. Okay, now we have a question from Vice Chair Levitt.
Hi, welcome, Diana.
Thank you.
My question is, how would you bring your lens from working for SEIU 2015?
I didn't hear the first part. Say that again.
How would you bring your lens from working with SEIU 2015 to the work of the California Democratic Party? Because you're really, helping to organize and support workers who are often, hidden, and their needs need to be made known, especially with the pandemic. The crisis really exposes the disparities that we've had throughout the state, throughout the country. And what are you proposing to bring from that work to the—
Well, I have found that in organizing, there's always a person that someone trusts. So in organizing, you get a group to know and make them feel comfortable that they can come to that person and bring their concerns. And then it's brought forward. I want to make it comfortable for people to express. And I've even thought about having something called like the Secretary's Corner, where there's a place at the party website where you always know to go. If there's anything important going on in your clubs, in your central committees, you would put it there, and it would be an open invitation for the secretary to come at any point. I want to continue to travel as long as we're in COVID around, and not when we're in COVID, but it's more convenient to travel around to all the different organizations to hear what they have to say and to find out how they think that the party can assist them. But we have to come together as leaders or as delegates and just as community members, but we have to organize. So we have to have a starting point in each organization and bring that information forward. And I will be there to listen to that.
Okay, thank you once again, Diana Love, for joining us at our meeting today. We are out of time, so I'm so sorry for anyone who joined onto the stack, but we do encourage you to reach out to Diana Love to connect with her about her campaign and to get your question answered.
And I will put my information in the chat as well.
Please.
Please visit my website. Thank you, and you have a good evening.
You too. So next we have Delane Easton, who is a candidate for the California Democratic Party chair role. I see Delane Easton is here with us. So again, you have 2 minutes to kind of give us an overview of yourself and your campaign and why you're running. And then we'll have 2 minutes for questions and answers from members of the DCCC.
Well, good evening to all of you in beautiful San Francisco County, and thank you for inviting me here tonight. I really will say to all of you, I really appreciate the work you've done to make San Francisco bluer than blue. If not for an accident of history, I would have been a 5th generation San Franciscan. My dad was in the Navy and we were stationed in San Diego, but my brother was born in San Francisco and our roots go way back. The reality is that my grandfather owned the 7 Mile House, the bar out by the Cow Palace that some of you are familiar with. But early on, he was a teamster, drove a team of horses. I feel the future is full of hope and promise after the amazing inauguration that we all had a chance to see. The repairing our alliances in our government is really an important piece of work. And I'm running to be chair of the party because we can and we must do better. After the November election, engaged Democrats called me and asked me to run. They were very concerned that even in the face of a big win for the Biden-Harris team, we had major losses in targeted congressional seats and in state propositions. We would have been more likely to have held on to those lost seats with increased staff and outreach, a better field plan, targeted messaging, and stronger management and organization. We needed to provide much more in the way of resources and support to bolster the entire ticket. What does a successful party look like? Well, it's inclusive, unified, growing, and inspiring. And people have fun and they get together and work on projects that uplift them. We must walk the talk. When I'm chair, we will stand for what our platform says we stand for. We'll be a party championing clean money, campaign finance reform, environmental justice, social justice, Medicare for all. And of course, child development and education will be a priority as the state of California Constitution says that it should be. And how can we do better? We can bring back the voters we lost because they did not feel heard. And that includes people of color, women, working families, local labor, and others. We can allow people to disagree with us without retaliating or shunning them. So I ask for your consideration. California has not had a woman party chair elected since 1985. Let that sink in. The fact is the Republicans just elected a woman as their party chair last year. We need to get this going. So thank you all. I want to answer some questions.
All right, the first person I see on the stack is Member Barry.
Hello, thank you for running. Similar to a question I asked the earlier candidate, same to you is, I've been very frustrated to see that on the state level, that there's never anything on the platform to specifically address the atrocities that have been brought upon Black people. What would you like to see on the Democratic state platform that addresses these harms?
The Democratic platform must acknowledge that Black lives matter, and we must do a much better job of including really tangible plans for helping every person who's African American and or the other races who in fact are also being discriminated against in many places. You know, the current party chair said he would find a place for the Dreamers in our party, and then he didn't do it. So the truth is we need to have, yes, great ideas, but we also need to have collegiality and a sense of teamwork between and among ourselves. And that means everybody's voice must be raised when anybody's damaged by the prejudice and discrimination that still is rampant in our nation. And so I just feel like when you look at this call and you walk down the streets of American cities, what you see is we are a very diverse country and we need to be much more open to our differences.
Member Galata.
Thanks, Vice Chair Lacroix. Thank you, Delane, for being here. My question is, when you talked about investing more resources in the party, Thinking back to the November election, what would you have done differently as party chair in terms of organizing the state and getting people mobilized and engaged kind of up and down the ballot? I mean, as you know, we lost congressional seats here in California. How would you have done that differently?
We lost 4 congressional seats and we only lost 12 in the entire nation. And when you consider that California won for Biden and Harris by a 10-point margin, more than a 10-point margin, it's disgraceful that we did not retain those seats. And we should have had a better plan for adding more seats. So we need to get more boots on the ground, and we need to start looking at parts of the state where we do, in fact, have more people moving because they can do distance work and they can afford to buy a home in a place that in your beautiful city is very expensive. And so if we did a better job of really doing outreach to some of our red and purple parts of the state, we can turn them blue. We can turn them blue pretty fast, I think. But again, it's also about having a plan for electing people to local offices up and down the state.
All right, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we are out of time. And so again, like with our other candidates, I do encourage everyone to reach out to the candidates that we've heard from today or this evening and get your questions answered or learn more about them. Thank you so much, Delane Easton, for joining us today. And good luck.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And now I'll turn it, if there are no more candidates speaking with us this afternoon, I will turn it back to Chair Campos for our next agenda item.
Great. Thank you very much, Vice Chair Lacroix, and thank you to all the candidates who came to speak to us tonight. And again, we welcome presentations from all the other candidates for the other offices. Please reach out to our Executive Director, Karima Lynch, to make sure that we schedule a time for you to come and present to the DCCC and to all the San Francisco Democrats who are interested in learning who is running and hearing from everyone. We want to make sure that everyone gets an equal opportunity to speak. So we look forward to that. With that, I'm going to move now to reports from our officers, and I'm going to begin with the chair's report. And I'll try to be brief, though I have a couple of items of business that we need to address. And let me simply step back a little bit and say that what's always so exciting and amazing about January is that it's the month when all of the work that we did in the last election comes to fruition and sort of pays off. We have seen in the last few days the swearing in of all these incredible candidates that made history by winning election to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, the San Francisco Board of Education, the Board of Trustees. And so it's very exciting to see folks assuming those new roles. And we're very proud that we've had a role in making that happen. And one way we do that is by running a very strong and robust campaign for every election. And a key part of that is making sure that we have the right people doing the work of the formal official campaign treasurer. And as you know, for the last few years, the party has used S.E. Owens as our official treasurer. And without going into all the specifics, I think it's fair to say that they have done an incredible job over the years. We have not faced any penalties, which of course, is something that could very well happen given the complexities not only of state law, but also federal law. And given the attention that San Francisco gets, we have to be very careful. The challenge that we faced, as you know, with S.E. Owens is that as great as they are, they also have been expensive, right? And we have had an ongoing challenge as a committee to make sure that we have enough funds in the federal fund to not only cover S.E. Owens and the expenditures that come with that, but also, payroll and other expenses that have to be paid from the federal account. One of the things that I committed to doing last year was to work closely with our fundraising committee chaired by Member Marr as well as Member Thomas, to make sure that we did enough fundraising to meet our obligations with the federal funds, with the federal account and the state account. I'm happy to report, as you probably remember, that we were able to raise enough money last year to pay off the entire debt that we had in the federal account. That creates a very unique opportunity, though, going forward, to make sure that we actually continue to operate with a surplus in the federal account. And a big challenge has been with the federal account is, can we get a sort of a more affordable service when it comes to the treasurer? So that's what a number of us have been working for the last few months, based on input that we received from different members, Member Cohen, Member Kim, a number of other folks, directed us to different companies and individuals who could play a role in sort of serving as the official treasurer. And so we did our due diligence, and I want to thank Member Thomas when he was treasurer, but also Member Morales and our executive director, Member Karima Lynch. We did research and we sought out different companies to give us estimates for what it would cost to provide that service. And so I want to now turn it over to Carolina Morales and to Karima Lynch so that they can explain the due diligence that was done. Ultimately, we did find one company that was willing to provide the service for a lower amount, and that led to an additional step in the process, which is where I will step in and come back with the recommendation that we have for the body. But I'll turn it over to Carolina and Karima.
Sorry, I was on mute. So yes, like Chair Campos said, former Treasurer Thomas and I last year noticed that the budget to pay our accountant was really high compared to the money that we were raising every month. And so after talking about it to the executive committee, we decided to prospect and to have kind of a better view on how and what they are charging out there with other firms. And first, it came to our attention, of course, that not every firm was working with county central committees due to the complexity that, like Chair Campos said, of the filing and the different rules around the states and the federal account. However, thanks to Member Kim, we were able to find a firm, CJ and Associates, who are working with county central committees. Member Thomas and I and Chair Campos had a conversation with them, and they sent us a proposal. The proposal is definitely lower than what we are paying right now. And after talking to the executive board and Chair Campos about the proposal, we conclude that it would be fair to talk about this proposal with SEON and see if they could match this estimate. Member Morales and Chair Campos and I had a meeting with SEON last week to explain our situation, and they were really open about sending us a proposal that will come close to the proposal that CJ and Associates sent us. And to talk about this proposal, I sent it to all of you this morning, the proposal of the two firms, LC Owens and CJ and Associates. So you will find it in your inbox. And now I'm going to turn it to Member Morales to talk more about the numbers and the difference between those two proposals.
Thank you, Karima. And good evening, everybody. So yes, definitely, we are paying an average of $5,000 a month currently for this service. And so thanks again to everybody who did work last year, particularly Karima and AJ, to make sure that we were looking for other options and hearing suggestions. So the best quote that we got, as you have it in your inboxes, is from CJ and Associates, and the lowest quote that they offered is a flat rate of $2,000 per month for services in non-election years and $3,000 per month for services during election years. And the kind of election year rate would also be relevant for the kind of special election, you know, mid-year or, you know, early in the year time. You know, being a new treasurer and learning a lot with SEONs, and also having the experience of presiding the Milk Club for 2 years and actually having a few problems with our treasurer department, I really wanted somebody who has a lot of experience, particularly because I feel like this body needs to maintain a level of transparency and accountability that should be higher, you know, kind of like almost the highest standard in my view. So I'm very happy to say that SEONs has matched the lowest quote that CJ provided, which is again the flat rate of $2,000 per month for non-election and $3,000 for election years. And so with that, I give it back to David. Chair
Sure,
Campbell.
thank you. And I want to say that, I mean, I think this is where going through the exercise of doing due diligence is really important, because it really helps you to understand the landscape and the reality, you know, as someone who has done this for the committee, but also done, you know, has run other campaigns, is that having a professional treasurer is very important. And you have seen many examples of people who get in trouble because they don't take that piece very seriously. I think that what we certainly saw when we did our research about who was doing work for central committees is the challenge of representing a central committee, because the rules are very complicated, and yet there isn't a lot of money, relatively speaking, to be made by representing central committees. So it's hard to find, you know, people that would be willing to do this at the level that we needed it to be done. The company that provided the other proposal is a very capable company who has, you know, I think a lot to offer. But taking the totality of where we are and looking at the track record of SEONs and what they have done for us, the fact that they're willing to match the lowest price that we could find, to me, is a very positive thing. In my recommendation, you know, based on what we know about their work, the experience that we have had with them, is that, you know, we should continue our relationship with them. It is probably the lowest rate that they give any of their clients. And I think that they're willing to do that because they really want to continue to serve the San Francisco Democratic Party. And so I just wanted to put that out there. That would be my strong recommendation, that we continue our relationship with SEONs. But I'm very grateful that we went through this exercise, because if the outcome is that we continue with this relationship, we're talking about paying about half of what we have been paying. And I think that really changes the situation for us going forward. So I just want to open it up to see if anyone has any comments, or if anyone feels differently and that we should move in a different direction. Is there anyone raising hands? Okay. All right. Unless any action is taken, I think, you know, the status quo will continue to be so. But I just want to thank everyone who made this happen, who worked to do the diligence that got us to this point, and really grateful to SEONs that we are in this position. And you know, it is a real relief, because I think it opens up the opportunity to use the federal funds for a lot of other things, including being even more involved in federal races. The last thing that I have to report is, as some of you got in an email relating to a resolution that the Sonoma Democratic Party passed. The Sonoma County Democratic Central Committee introduced a resolution that essentially urges President-elect Biden to commute the sentence of reality winner. And this has to do with the leaking of classified information relative to spying by the Russian government. And this actually calls for changes in federal law and reforming the Espionage Act, which right now really limits the scope of what is leaked for purposes of protecting classified information. And this basically ensures the changes that are being sought ensures protection to whistleblowers, and they have asked that we write a letter in support of that effort. And I think that supporting whistleblowers is something that is aligned with our values and what we have talked about before in terms of the conduct of our federal government and how we interact with foreign bodies. And so I would hope that it's okay for folks if we send a letter supporting that effort. I don't know if anyone has any objections to that, but seeing, yes. Unless there's any objection, I think it's okay for Karima to send a letter along those lines. But yes, Member Ting, Alex Walker.
Thanks so much. And I just wanted to just mention that I would just ask, and I think we've had this conversation before, that for those of us who are proxies, it can be rather difficult to get in the morning of, especially when our members are having budget hearings all day and have a budget bill tomorrow on the floor that's about renter's assistance, for example. So that being said, I just request that if at all possible, if something's coming after the 3-day mark, or if it can be accommodated in any sense, because we do these with our proxies before the meeting, and it's just tough to be able to do that the morning of. So that's all. Thanks.
Excellent point, and we wouldn't have raised it except for the fact that they asked us to do it, and so I understand. Okay, so that concludes my report, and I'll move on to our first vice chair, Member Lacroix.
Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. I see we have a lot more things on our agenda, so I will keep my section super brief. I just wanted to encourage everybody, both members and people watching from their couches or chairs at home, to sign up and attend RDDC's Winter Social this week. I think it'll be a fun way to just reconnect with everybody. I know people are kind of, or I'll speak for myself, kind of struggling with like sheltering in place and all that fun stuff. And so more ways that we can just kind of continue to engage with each other and, still be working together along, just reaching out and supporting our Democratic clubs is key. So if you haven't already, be sure to register. Second is, if anyone has any fun, cool ideas around ways to have events or programming for this year for the DCCC, I'm all ears. So let's connect, let's chat, and kind of think through some things for 2021 that'll be fun and exciting to do with our big brand of being the Democratic Party. With that, I will turn it over back to Chair Campos, and I look forward to connecting with everyone this year.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lacroix, and we'll go on to voter registration and Vice Chair Baraka.
Hello, everyone. My report is going to be even shorter. I did not convene the voter registration committee over the break, so I do not have anything to report, but I plan to meet with members of the voter registration committee between now and our next meeting, and we'll report back then. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Baraka. Vice Chair Mahogany, Club Chartering.
Thank you, Chair Campos. We don't have any new clubs this month, but we do have a couple clubs that are coming down the pipeline, including a new club, possibly a San Francisco Native American Democratic Club that is shaping up. And also the Potrero Hill Democrats have also expressed interest in being rechartered. So I'm working with them to make sure that they have all of their stuff turned in so that hopefully we can get them up and running for the next meeting.
Now we'll go on to Vice Chair Lovett, who has reports on issues and resolutions, and I think maybe interns as well.
So while we had a recess of this body for 2 months, of course, we know that tremendous things have happened. And I'll just kind of focus especially on what happened around January 5th and 6th. You know, that night I was so tuned in to what was happening in Georgia. I know some of the other members and I had been making phone calls to Georgia and seeing how incredible that outreach effort was. And that is a model, you know, like the New Georgia Project, folks who really have brought leadership forth from communities of color and organized on the ground for years. And the key thing is that this has happened for years. And so all the work that gets done behind the scenes, all the stuff that doesn't really get the recognition, but the thousands of hours, the millions of people that we all collectively end up engaging with and for, really help to move our country toward where we are. And so the Democratic Party has really shown how incredible it is as being a party of the people. And I want to now sort of put my intern committee hat on to acknowledge our interns, past and present. We have Jason Park here, who is a junior at Occidental College. And as a junior, he has done such incredible work. So when we had first interviewed him back in the summer, or prior to the summer for those internships, it was a really tough call because he was clearly somebody who was a bridge builder, who could form all these incredible coalitions and with young people around the country. So now it's not a tough call anymore. Want to welcome Jason here to say some remarks, especially about that work that you did on Senator Warnock's campaign. So Jason, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lovett, for this opportunity to speak. And hello, everyone. My name is Jason. And in the general election, actually, before I joined the Reverence campaign, I was a member of the Student Leadership Council for President Biden's campaign. And I was in charge of being an advisor for the entire West Coast region. And after the outcome of the general election was obvious, I joined the Warnock campaign. And on the Warnock campaign, I'm just going to briefly share that I served for the Student Engagement Department, and I was responsible for one, expanding the social media presence for Students for Warnock, and two, organizing and leading regional Students for Warnock phone banks for the department. And so I was very honored to co-host a virtual GeoTV rally on the eve of the election, which included speakers like our very own Senator Padilla and our very own Representative Maxine Waters. And so it was an honor to serve on the Warnock campaign, but now I'm ready to hit the ground running here closer at home for the SFDCCC. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak and for having me on the team. Let's go.
Thank you, Jason. Welcome. All right, next.
Great. Is that it for your report, Vice Chair Lovett? Jason, thank you so much. I'm so proud of you, and it makes me wonder what I was doing when I was, your age. I mean, it's just so impressive, and it makes all of us feel so much better about the future. So glad to have you on board here. Now we'll move on to Vice Chair Galata to talk about partnerships, and I think someone just had a birthday recently, so happy birthday, Vice Chair Galata.
Thank you, Chair Campos. Yes, 21 again. Great to see everybody. We had an incredible run with Vote Blue SF. We were 2 for 2 between November and then the Georgia runoff. So just thank you again to everybody, but especially our volunteers who gave so much of their time to make calls and texts really over the past 6 months and didn't stop in November, but kept calling and texting through December and January and help us get across the finish line. So just major shout out and appreciation to all of you. And also want to really thank our MVPs, our partner groups, Democracy Action, Swing Left, Sister District. They are really the ones that really helped galvanize our volunteers and get them plugged in to so many phone banking opportunities and text banking opportunities this year. And also Susan Pfeiffer, it's good to see you, Susan. I hope you finally put down the phone because I know you've been glued to it for the past 6 months and have just been doing such incredible work. You deserve a break. Congratulations and thank you for just being kind of an all-star and working so closely with the Vote Blue SF team and being just an integral part of that team. And of course, Karima and our Vote Blue SF interns. And just again, thanks to Priscilla, who actually stayed on with us for the last 2 months to bring it home in Georgia. And of course, much gratitude and appreciation to Speaker Pelosi for her just generous sponsorship of our Vote Blue SF interns and just making the entire Vote Blue SF partnership possible. So we've gotten a lot of practice in over the past 4 years, making calls and turning out voters and flipping districts from red to blue. I don't think any of us think it's time to sit on the bench, even with a Democratic president and a majority in Congress. We've got to stay in the game and in this work. And so I think one of the things we'll be doing next, that I'll be doing at least, is circling back with some of our partner groups in the coming weeks to really debrief about 2020 and to also get a sense of what folks are going to be focused on next. Just given the fact that the midterm elections are already coming up in 2022, it will be here before we know it. So I think we want to kind of keep the momentum going and keep folks engaged so that we can keep our majority in 2 years, because we know that Trump isn't going away and Trumpism definitely isn't going away. So we've got to stay organized. And if you all are hearing of ways in which we can stay engaged in some of that work, and Jason, very much looking forward to working with you as well and hearing your ideas as well on what we can be doing at the local level to continue to support this national infrastructure that's really incredibly been built out in the past few years. So definitely welcome ideas and input from the committee. And just thank you again to all the DCCC members for your contributions to Vote Blue SF this past year. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Galata. And we have 4 congressional districts that we need to flip back. So we have some work to do. We'll now turn it over to our treasurer, Treasurer Morales.
Good evening, everybody, again. So very shortly, you received the financial report, and we have a little over $10,000 on our federal account in cash, and our state account has $31,740. This means that we are good to go for the next 2 months to cover expenses. And it's a great reminder of how important fundraising is. So thank you, Member Mar and Thomas, for the work that you're doing. I know that everybody met on Monday, and I'm not sure if there is going to be space for a report on that or how that works, but thank you. That's my report.
Thank you very much. And I'll turn it over to our co-chair of the Finance Committee, Member Thomas, if you want to say anything about the meeting of the Finance Committee. I know that, or maybe the proxy for Member Mar. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about that.
Thank you, Chair Campos. Yeah, I'll briefly report out. The Finance Committee met on Monday to discuss the goals for the year, fundraising goals, and some of the challenges and how we're going to address them, especially given that there are no elections this year. So while some of the expenses are lower, also some of the fundraising opportunities and the normal ways we request money are not there. We just dedicated the first meeting to looking at the federal budget, which is projected to be about $34,000 for the year. And we broke out that goal into different tasks. So about 20,000 for call time would be the goal. And then one event that we're trying to work together on. It's unclear with events how it'll work given COVID-19 and the recovery over the next year. But folks have been looking at opportunities via an online event, something in partnership with the clubs for trivia or an auction. So if you're interested in event planning or in getting more involved with the clubs or putting something like that together, please reach out, because that will be one of the big sponsor fundraising opportunities this year. And then the last one would be reoccurring donations from those who've signed up to do $20 or actually however much you're able to do as a reoccurring donor. I know that many of those on the DCCC are already $20 or more donors per month. And if you are not, you have probably gotten a phone call or a text from members of the Finance Committee over the last 24, 48 hours. So please respond to those texts. If you are not already a recurring donor, please get on there and be a recurring donor. We get about $6,000 a year into the federal account through that. And our goal is to double that this year. So not only do we want you to sign up, but we'd like you to find a couple of people too as well. So, and that's kind of the report out on the federal budget. I don't know if Edward, if you have anything you want to add, if Gordon has provided.
We have Mr. Wright, who is member Mars proxy for tonight.
Thank you very much, Chair Campos. Thank you very much, Member Thomas. I don't have anything substantive to add. I think Member Thomas really covered the substance of the Monday meeting. But just want to emphasize again, this is really a collective effort, and it'll take all of us, kind of coming together to ensure that we have the resources that we need to ensure that this committee can do everything that we need to do.
And one thing that I would note, and again, thank you to the Finance Committee for the work, is that I think as of the meeting of the Finance Committee, there were 12 members of the committee and proxies that were recurring donors to the DCCC. And that means, we have essentially 33 members, 24 elected, and then, 9 proxies. That means that more than half of the members of the body are not recurring members, recurring donors. So please, if you are a member, if you are an elected ex officio, please consider becoming a recurring donor. $20 a month, and that can go a long way. And we will be calling everyone who hasn't done it yet. So please do it. Save us that call, that text. And again, thank you everyone for all your work. So I'll now turn it over to our Executive Director for her report.
Thank you, Chair Campos, and I will put soon in the chat the link to do your monthly donation. As Chair Campos said, it's really helpful, especially for the federal account. So for my report, like Member Gagliota said, just after the election, we just focused on Georgia, and I wanted to thank again Tim Pelosi for their contribution that helped us hire Priscilla, one of our former interns, to manage with me and Member Gagliota Vote Blue SF. Even if this time we were not able to really organize and run Phone Bank, we partner with Swing Left, Dem Action, Sister District, and also Austin Hunter, who is a proxy today with us, who really organize everyday Phone Banks for Georgia. And of course, Susan Pfeiffer, who helped us manage Vote Blue SF. So I want to say thank you, Priscilla, for your wonderful job to communicate with our Democrats in the city who ask information about how they could get involved with this race. I received a lot of phone call, message, email about how they could get involved. So I was happy that the SF Democratic Party participated actively to this election. The second one is, of course, the EDEM election. So at the same time of the Georgia and still going on right now, we have the EDEM election. Our role during that race was to inform Democrats of the different process that was put in place due to COVID. And so we had to send emailing a newsletter to more than 200,000 Democrats in the city to explain how to vote and how to register, because the difficulties was to make sure that Democrats receive the information that they need to register before January 11 to vote and to receive a ballot. So on the other hand, we receive a lot of calls again and emails in response of this newsletter about actually what was the EDEM election. So that was not my expectation. It was just, I was thinking that more maybe question about how to get registered to vote and the link, but actually 90% of the questions and calls and voicemail was about what is the EDEM election. And the state party was really good in providing on their website kind of a page where you can see what a delegate is doing, what are we voting for delegate, and all this information. So it was really helpful. And again, I want to thank Priscilla, one of the interns who helped me really manage all those calls and emails and message. So thank you, Priscilla. And just to give you some numbers, so we had a record breaking. We had like in California, 169,000 ballots was requested in California, which is huge. 2 years ago for us in San Francisco, 2 years ago in AD 19, that was more than around 300 votes. And on AD 17, that was like more about 2,000 votes plus. And this year, only what we know is not really vote because not everybody returned their ballot and the date was extended. So is only people registered to vote, but still it's just triple. So we have for AD 19, 2 years ago, we had 300 votes and we have now 4,700 Democrats that requested a ballot. And for AD 17, 2 years ago, we had 2,000 plus votes. And this year, like around, I think, 6,700 Democrats requested a ballot, which is so impressive and really excited for us because that shows the involvement for Democrats, the involvement of Democrats growing in the city. So that I'm happy. And now the work that we're doing is to make sure that people know that they have to return the ballot, that the deadline is extended, and that the state party is here to help you if you don't receive your ballot. So I think Annie Kelly, who's just after me, will give some information about it. But if anybody has some problem with their ballot, I know that they're still sending ballot and you should receive it before February 3rd. I think that's it for my report, Chair Campos.
Thank you very much to our Executive Director. And of course, you know, even though the election ends in November, the work continues through November, December, and January. So thank you for continuing to do that. Is Henny Kelly here so that we can hear from our Regional Director?
I don't see her.
I don't see her. Okay, well, thank you. And again, exciting that you have maybe 4 times, 3 times the number of people participating in the ADEM process. So a lot to be proud of, as imperfect as that process can be. And so we'll continue to work to get people to send in their ballots. And I'm very proud of the fact that we actually spend resources communicating with all San Francisco Democrats so that people at least understood how the process works, as complicated as that was. So we'll now move on to item number 7, and this is a resolution supporting the renaming of Visitation Valley Playground in memory of Yi Wei Wang, and I apologize if I mispronounced the name. I'm going to turn it over to Member Tung, who introduced the resolution. And again, I want to thank all the members of the public, all the Democrats that came out to speak in favor of this. So Member Tung, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Campos. I'd like to just make a note that in the agenda, Madam Recording Secretary, there is a misspelling in Yik Oi Huang's name. If you could correct that, please, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So I came to know Susanna because of a great tragedy that happened in San Francisco, where her grandmother was assaulted and later died from her injuries at a park that she really loved in Visitation Valley. She made use of the park. She was not afraid of the park. She was not afraid to be very present in her neighborhood. And one of the most wonderful things about Grandma Huang is that her name actually means abundant love. And the renaming of this park, I think, is so essential to the community because it takes this tragedy and then reclaims the park for this type of abundant love and for the community to flourish and to come together. And they have in a way that is really remarkable. I know that Jessica Campos was in line to give public comment, but for whatever reason, she wasn't able to make that technological connection. And I think what she wanted to say really encapsulates it all. She says that this tragic event brought the community together as a multiracial, multicultural, and multi-generational group to speak on the need of the southeast sector of the city as advocates address the inequities in resources and services. We have done the footwork in collecting signatures, letters of support, and using this as a catalyst for healing and unity of our community. So they have done a lot of work in order to move this process forward. They've submitted a petition to the Park and Recs Department. They've had 1 of 2 community meetings as required. They have the support of District 10 Supervisor Shimon Walton and the support from the Park and Rec Department itself. And so this resolution really puts forward the DCCC's support as it moves towards the Rec and Park Commission, which they will vote on it once the application is completed and moves forward in March. So I would ask that for your support, fellow members, and that if there is anyone who would like to co-sponsor, I invite that at this time.
Great, thank you. I know that we have a comment from Member Barry.
Member Tung, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I recently moved a few blocks from this park, and I was very excited to see that Ron Coulthers is a force behind this action. However, I need to ask you, is there any opposition to this?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion. I'm sorry, Member Tung, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say to reiterate that they have received significant support online through a change.org petition from people all over the city, but specific to Visitation Valley, they have over 200 signatures from people who are located within Visitation Valley.
Thank you very much. Can we have a motion on this resolution?
Yeah, I'd like to move this item for support.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any other comments or questions from members? So on the resolution supporting the naming of this park, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? It passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Member Tung, for bringing this forward, and thank you to all the community members who came out and spoke in favor of this. Greatly appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and of course to the family, you know, our condolences, and we're proud to support this effort, which hopefully will bring some healing to not just the family but the entire community. Thank you. Now we move on to the next item, which is a resolution introduced by Vice Chair Galata, resolution condemning the acts of domestic terrorism at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th and urging congressional action to investigate and hold accountable those responsible. Vice Chair Galata, thank you for bringing this forward, and if you can add me as a co-sponsor, please. The floor is yours.
Gladly. Thank you, Chair Campos. So colleagues, as we know, on January 6th, we all watched in horror as domestic terrorists breached the US Capitol and desecrated the seat of our democracy in an attempted coup that was incited by none other than Donald Trump. We saw a mob of mostly white people overrun police lines and breach one of the most secure buildings in Washington, D.C. with minimal arrests made. We saw members of the US Capitol Police acting with complicity during the attacks and joking with and taking selfies with rioters and moving barricades to allow the mob greater access to the building, revealing the clear infiltration of white supremacists and white supremacy ideology in law enforcement. And it's also come to light that since the event, that members of Congress were the potential targets of the attackers. And if not for fast action, there very well could have been assassinations of Democratic elected members. So since then, since January 6th, there have been calls for the country to move on and to unify now that President Biden and Vice President Harris have been officially sworn in. But I think we all can agree that there can be no moving on without accountability. And as Nina Turner has said, there can be no unity with seditionists, there can be no unity with white supremacists, with traitorous elected officials. And we can't just turn the page on this. We need full accountability. And the Republicans are hoping for our collective amnesia and have already been downplaying their own involvement and entanglements in the violence that occurred. And just as a country, we cannot let that happen. So in that spirit, I am bringing forward this resolution tonight just to put us officially on record, condemning the acts of domestic terrorism and insurrection that occurred on January 6th, and that we join the chorus of those demanding widespread, thorough investigations and real accountability. And to that end, there are two legislative items that I'm also asking that we support and in this resolution. So newly elected Congressmember Cori Bush from St. Louis, Missouri, has introduced House Resolution 25, which will direct the House Committee on Ethics to investigate whether members of Congress who sought to overturn the 2020 presidential election, which, by the way, there's 140 members of Congress that attempted to overturn the 2020 presidential election, whether they violated their oath of office and should face sanction, including removal from office. Newly elected Congressmember Jamal Bowman from New York has introduced House Resolution 276 to establish a national commission to investigate the attack on the US Capitol and Congress and to propose recommendations to realign the mission of the United States Capitol Police. So personally, I believe Republican members of Congress who were complicit in this attack should be sanctioned and removed from office. They took an oath and they violated it. And I hope Congress refuses to simply turn the page and act swiftly to adopt these bills and ensure there's real and substantive accountability. So just asking for colleagues for your support tonight. Thank you to those that have co-sponsored the resolution, and happy to answer any questions.
Colleagues, any comments or questions? The only thing that I would say, Member Vice Chair Galata, is that I'm very proud that you brought this forward. I think it's really important for us to speak out against what's happening because now there's a lot of people who are trying to forget that history, forget what happened. And I was at a meeting that Speaker Pelosi had right after this happened. Her swearing in, which she talked about the impact it had on her young staff, many interns who were fearing for their lives. And we know that whether it's Speaker Pelosi or, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, if any of these people had gotten to them, that they would have harmed them. So thank you for doing this, and I'm proud to be associated with it. So on the resolution, can we have a motion to support?
I'm sorry, Chair Campos.
Oh, yeah. On behalf of Speaker Pelosi, Mr. McCoy.
Very quickly. Per the Speaker's longstanding policy of not supporting or abstaining from a resolution that directs congressional action, we will be abstaining, but I did want to let everyone know the Speaker appreciates the direction of this. Absolutely. I think first and foremost for the Speaker is to prioritize the FBI investigation that's going on right now. The Speaker and other members of Congress close to home had direct attempts on their life that day. And so as more comes out, I think she's called on an independent investigation of the Capitol security that day. The president has been impeached, and she's currently also trying to sort of figure out the best path for other after action items. But given her policy of not directing Congress, we'll be abstaining from this.
We understand. Thank you very much. So we have a motion by member Duffy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Barry. So on the resolution, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have one abstention. Anyone else?
I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Great. And if you could put in the chat if you want to be added as a co-sponsor so our recording secretary can look at that, please.
And sorry, who made the original motion?
Yes, there's an original motion by Bevan Duffy. So thank you very much. Thank you, Member Vice Chair Golota, for bringing this, and the resolution passes. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next item, which is a resolution by Member Kim, urging the California State Legislature and the Office of the Governor of the State of California to extend eviction protections for California residents beyond January 31st, 2021, to permit local municipalities to legislate stronger protections for tenants and distribute $2.6 billion in rent relief to struggling California renters. Member Kim, thank you for bringing this forward. If you can add me as a co-sponsor. Turn it over
That'd be great, Chair Campos, and thank you for reading the very lengthy title of the resolution in full. It was only when you fully read it that I realized how long it was. For many of you who have been actively working on this issue, including Member Lovett and others, many of you know that Governor Newsom yesterday or Monday announced with Senate Pro Tem President Atkins and Speaker Rendon a compromise measure, SB 91, which is going for a vote to the Assembly. It is not the language in AB 15 that tenant leaders across the state have been working on. It is a compromise measure. It just kicks the can down the road, extending the eviction moratorium AB 3088 to June 30th, 2021. However, we all know that the pandemic is not coming any close to an end in 5 months, nor is the economy going to magically restore itself, allowing millions of Californians that have lost income or jobs. In fact, 50% of Californians have lost income during the pandemic in order to be able to make their rent and mortgage payments. In addition, the compromise included the distribution of $2.6 billion federal dollars to go to rent relief. But unfortunately, these dollars are contingent on landlord approval, meaning if the landlord refuses the rent debt relief funds, the tenant is not eligible for those funds and will be on the hook for paying the rest of their rent debt once the moratorium ends on June 30th. The tenant will continue to be eligible for 25% of the rent debt in order to stay in their unit and not get evicted per the compromise back in August. But that is the deal. However, in talking to tenant leaders and organizers, Assemblymember Chu and other co-authors, we still feel that this resolution is pertinent and relevant today because AB 15 will still continue to move forward. And since the can has literally been kicked down the road, there will have to be another discussion in the legislature about extending this eviction moratorium beyond June 30th. And two key things. One, we want to make sure the bill does not include preemption language, which prevents localities like the city and county of San Francisco from passing stronger protections for tenants, which is currently the case in SB 91 and AB 3088. And two, that we're able to figure out a fix so that landlords who are refusing the rent relief debt funds, maybe out of spite or greed, for example, if they have a rent controlled unit and it benefits them to evict that tenant instead of getting 80% of the rent back, that there's a way to somehow mitigate for that. So given that AB 15 is still relevant, although it will be in discussion for the next couple of months and not over the next week. Still wanted to push this forward and pass this. I do have one amendment which I submitted to our executive director, Karima Lynch, so she had language. One of the data sets was just wrong on the first whereas clause. And so I'm going to delete the 25.5% of California renters and 17.4% of California property owners are behind in the rent and mortgage payment, and change that to 20.7% of California households do not know if they'll be able to pay their rent or mortgage next month. And this is according to the Turner Center at UC Berkeley. And also adding Lee Meow Lovett, who also introduced a resolution on AB 15 and 16, but we have now split 15 and 16 and adding her as a co-sponsor. And I know Chair Campos would like to be added as well. Final note that I just want to say, although I think that this is so obvious to everyone in the committee, is that eviction absolutely has led to deaths in this country. And there was a study that was done by UCLA and Johns Hopkins that showed that the absence or expiration of eviction moratorium in other states led to at least an additional 433,700 COVID-19 infections and an additional 10,700 deaths across the country. No one should die because they get evicted. And all of it is so obvious in the sense that it's hard to maintain quarantine, social distancing, safety and security without a home. We're being pushed out into the streets or shelters. For so many reasons, this eviction moratorium is so important. We were already in an eviction crisis pre-pandemic, but at this point, we really are talking about saving lives. So thank you to the many, many co-sponsors on this bill and looking forward to your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kim. And can we have a motion to move to approve this as amended? If we can just have a motion and a second.
Chair Campos?
Yeah, I'll turn to Mr. Hunter shortly after the motion. And second. So motion by Duffy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chu. So I'll now turn to Mr. Hunter, proxy for Assembly Member Chu.
Thank you, Chair Campos. I just want to take a moment to read a brief statement from Assembly Member Chu, really wanting to express gratitude to members Lovett, Kim, and this committee and the numerous tenant organizations across the state who have supported both AB 15 and AB 16 as we've continued to work hard to protect California tenants before we do see this eviction moratorium expire in 4 days. As Member Kim said on Monday, we saw the governor and legislative leadership announce a proposal to extend the eviction moratoriums with $2.6 billion in federal rent relief. The proposal on the table by the governor and legislative leadership includes protections such as extending those protections through June, prohibiting late fees, prohibiting selling debt to predatory lenders, and closing many of the loopholes that we did want to see in AB 15 and 16. However, Member Chu does share the concern that many have that the level of debt that the tenant gets is solely dependent on the cooperation of the landlord, and this is in fact a troubling power imbalance. The Assembly member has also expressed these concerns to legislative leadership and all parties that agree that the program will require very close and regular monitoring going forward. He expects in the coming months that the legislator will likely need to consider follow-up legislation to address the gaps in the current bill and provide additional debt relief for low-income tenants. Once the current eviction moratorium is extended beyond January 31st, the Assembly member will again engage closely with the tenant community on next steps for AB 15 and is thus happy to co-author both this resolution and the next in order to move forward with the vision that no California tenant should be evicted or saddled with long-term debt because of economic hardship due to the pandemic. Just on a personal note, myself, I've personally seen eviction in my family and loss of home, so it is great to see such a wide range of support for eviction moratoriums going forward, and really do want to personally thank Member Kim and Lovett for bringing forward these resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Colleagues, is there any other comment on this item. So on the motion,
Chair Campos.
yes. Oh, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Member Weiner.
Thank you, Chair Campos. I just wanted to echo Assemblyman Chu's statement. Senator Weiner would like to thank Member Kim as well for bringing this forward. It's a very important issue. Senator Weiner would also like to thank Assemblyman Member Chu. It's been a hard and contentious process. It's been going back many, many months. As we discussed, the governor and legislative leadership struck this deal, and it's going to be voted on tomorrow morning. The senator, as well as Assemblyman Member Chu, have expressed concerns about many aspects of this deal, including the sole opt-in provision for landlords. The senator would have wanted to see many different provisions in this deal, including tenant access to the money that's being provided, eviction protections, and also more time to work through these issues, even if it was just a few more weeks. Now that the deal is struck, we have to act, but otherwise the eviction moratorium is expiring on Sunday at midnight, and we will see mass evictions, and that is an untenable situation. So Senator Weiner will be watching closely how this deal rolls out, and will continue to work with the leadership and Assemblymember Chu to address issues as this moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Member Ting, Assembly Member Ting.
Thanks. And just to echo our colleagues, the fellow legislators, Senator Ting has been proud to be a co-author on AB 15 with the rest of the San Francisco delegation. And yes, there is a lot going on up there currently. And also we're looking at rental assistance as well. But yes, thank you, Member Kim, for bringing this forward and for really pulling together all of the co-sponsors in the coalition on this.
And Member Ma.
I want to thank Assemblymember Chu for bringing this bill forward, as well as members Kim and Lovett for bringing these resolutions forward. But I would like to note that Treasurer Ma will be abstaining from both this and the following resolution just because of the ongoing discussions and the involvement of the state budget. But we appreciate bringing these issues forward. They're important.
Great. Thank you very much. So on the motion to adopt, to pass and support the amended resolution, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any abstentions? So we have an abstention for Ma. Anyone else?
Abstain.
And the Lieutenant Governor Koulonakis. Anyone else? So it passes with 2 abstentions. Thank you very much, Member Kim, for bringing this forward. And now we'll move on to the next item, which is a resolution that is brought by Vice Chair Lovett and deals with a similar topic, but let me read the title. It's Resolution Supporting California State Assembly Bill number 16 by Assemblymember David Chu, AD 17, to establish a fund and framework for distribution of financial support to ensure long-term stability for renters, small landlords, and affordable housing providers. I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Lovett, and please, if you can add me as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Chair Campos. So first of all, I didn't choose my virtual background, but I think it's an apt metaphor for the coming storm, literal and economic, that so many households are facing. And so I have 3 points about this particular resolution. As has been discussed, AB 16 is really a companion to AB 15 and kind of a longer term and more integrated view around what it means to protect the residents in California. And the fate of tenants is certainly tied to the fates of the landlords. But I think more importantly, what's in this bill is that we're looking at the everyday folks, right? The small landlords, the renters, and the affordable housing providers. So the important issue that we're trying to address is that these are disparities that are long-term. Just in the most immediate couple of months, we're looking at almost 1 million households, actually over 1 million, with most of them low income, facing this astronomical $3.6 billion in rent debt, which comes to like $3,400 a household. People don't have this discretionary income, especially now. But this has been a long-term problem, and we start to see those disparities grow from the Great Recession and from the decades previous to that. So when you see the latest crisis that our families and households are hit with, we see these disparities grow. And so that the Latinx, Black, and Asian households are about 3 times as likely as the white households to be behind in rent. So we are seeing who is hit the hardest. The other issue is that this crisis is somebody else's opportunity, as the Chinese expression goes. And it's not an opportunity that we want to extend in terms of a big economic crisis to the speculators from Wall Street who have cashed in on the last recession, who have cashed in on all the crises that have hit our, low income, working class, immigrants, all those who are just trying to make it from day to day. This is well documented, and so I wanted to kind of spell out some of what's happened in terms of these private equity firms that really sweep in and have done so over the course of the last decade. We could see that again. And so when we are stabilizing both tenants and also small landlords, we are also stabilizing our communities so that this mass disruption and displacement is checked. And so we're not letting this happen to our communities. So this is the reason to have this companion piece. And even though the legislation that's moving forward with the governor and with this deal, involving the legislators, the legislative leaders, seems to respond to the urgency. We have to respond to the long-term crisis. And this is the framework that we need to look at. And to the points that have been brought previously, our focus needs to be on making sure this relief, any of this relief, is going to where it needs to go, so that we need to learn the lessons from the past, and even most recently from the rollout of, for example, the federal Paycheck Protection Program, and ensure that these funds are directed to the small landlords and also to the tenants. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lovett. Colleagues, can we have a motion on this resolution to support this resolution? Is there a motion?
By Member Ibanez.
Member Ibanez, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Avalos. Any comments?
Just want to make sure my name was added.
Okay, so Member Kim added as a co-sponsor, and everyone else, please let our secretary know. So on the motion yes.
Alex Walker Proxy wants to.
Oh, yes, Member Ting.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Just briefly, we're going to have to abstain on this because the funds that for this program would have to be appropriated in the state budget. So we just need to abstain on this. But thank you again for bringing this forward and talking about this issue, and for Senator Chu for bringing this bill forward.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comment? So on the motion to support this resolution, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So we have Member Ting. Anyone else?
Member Ma as well as noted.
Ma and Kolonakis?
Thank you.
Great. So it passes with 3 abstentions. Thank you, Vice Chair Lovett, for bringing this forward. Before we go to the next item, new business, I know that we have our regional director back on the Zoom. So I'm going to turn it over to Henny Kelly to provide a brief report as regional director.
Annie is, I think, with us. Just we're gonna give her a couple of seconds to activate her microphone. Hey, we can see you.
You can see me. I am so happy. Oh, I can see me too. That's bad. Hi there. I'm sorry I had a family problem, and so I wasn't there when I was supposed to be. Basically, I think Karina gave you all of the information about the ADEMs, and the last thing that has gone on with them is that people still have time to get their ballots in, right? They gave an extra week, and that also means that your Democratic County Central Committee does have another week to make sure that you name all of your delegates for the convention for the next 2 years. And that's extremely important because we get, what do we get, 36 delegates, David? Or is it 36 or 37?
37. Mhm.
And so that means that we will be able to make sure that we get people who will really support us, and people who believe in the Democratic Party. So you get an extra week for that. Nothing else exciting is happening, except of course that we will have a convention, and it is at the end of April, beginning of May, and it will go a full week. And as the last one did, because what they are doing is giving more time for caucuses and committees and trainings. So what we need to do is make sure that we get a lot of people who sign up for the caucuses, sign up for the committees, and also we should tell the clubs and make sure that they look at what the trainings are, because I think the trainings really are important for all of us, and we're working really hard on it. And that's about it.
I think we have a question from Vice Chair Baraka.
Hi, Henny. I have a question about the post mark date. One of the candidates posted that it had to be postmarked by today. I was not aware of that. And I just wanted to clarify that with you.
It does not. It used to have to be, this is the 27th, right? It was supposed to be when it had to be in by the end of the week. It has to get to where it's going. So I don't think it has to be postmarked by today, but to tell you the truth, I will check that in 1 second and get back to you, and I'll text it to Karima, okay?
I can confirm that it needs to be received by February 3rd. So it's the receiving date and not the mail date.
Yeah.
So the postmark date does not to come into play as long as it's received.
Received by the 3rd.
By the 3rd, that's what I thought. The other one did have a date that it could be postmarked by, because that at the time they had they gave it an extra 4 days for it to get there, 3 to 4 days. Now they are giving you the final day it has to be there. And if you haven't voted yet, you should be voting now and getting it in.
Okay, thank you. I knew that it had been extended, and thank you for others who chimed in. I appreciate that, but I just wanted to make sure that that was correct, because I'll notify that candidate as well.
Yes, okay. All righty.
Thank you, everyone. So you have until 7 days from today, next Wednesday. It has to be received by next Wednesday, the 3rd. So we will now go on to new business. Are there any items that anyone would like to introduce as a new business for the next meeting? Yes, Vice Chair Galata.
Thanks, Chair Campos. So thank you for inviting some of the candidates tonight for executive office for the California Democratic Party. It was great to hear from those candidates. I imagine we'll be hearing from more candidates at future meetings, but I wanted to ask that we agendize for the next meeting a formal endorsement for our chair, David Campos, in his candidacy for vice chair of the California Democratic Party. I think Susan Pfeiffer said it best. She said it's exciting to have one of our own running. I agree. And I think as a as his home party, we should show our support by lending our organizational endorsement to his candidacy. So I'd like to add this as an item for discussion and action at next month's meeting.
Well, I wasn't expecting that, but thank you, Vice Chair Galata. Any other items as new business? Before we do that, I'm going to open the floor for any in memoriam. I know that member Barry had wanted to adjourn in the memory of two individuals. Member Barry?
Thank you so much, Chair Campos. Happy New Year, colleagues and members of the public. January is when we celebrate the life of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. This memoriam is in the spirit of Mr. King. Dr. Cornel West wrote the following about the Reverend King. The radical King was the most significant and effective organic intellectual in the latter half of the 20th century, whose fundamental motif was radical love. In honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, I'd like to move to adjourn this meeting in honor of Dr. King, as well as the beautiful Margaret Cressy. Although she was affectionately known as Moms or the Hat Lady, Margaret Cressy, a Fillmore resident for 50+ years, was actually an extraordinary artist who painted incredible works that honored the lives of the disenfranchised. Although you could spot her hats throughout the neighborhood on the heads of Fillmore residents, and I'm so thankful to be wearing one right now, painting and for equal justice, equal justice was her true passion. Saving the Fillmore from gentrification and Margaret's 3 children, the beautiful and talented Kim Caldwell, Majid Crawford, co-founder of the New Community Leadership Foundation, and Dominic Crawford, a loving parent and sports lover, whom were always the topic in conversation with everyone she met. Margaret was proud to be a Fillmore resident and never let anyone forget that fact. Her passion and love for the community will live on in her children and grandchildren. Margaret Cressy's contribution to the arts and commitment to the Fillmore will never be forgotten. Again, my fellow members of the San Francisco Democratic Party, I move to adjourn this meeting in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King and Margaret Cressy.
So colleagues, I don't think that anyone can say it better. Can we take that without objection and adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Dr. Martin Luther King and the late Margaret Cressy? Without any objection, the meeting is adjourned, and seeing no other businesses, have a wonderful evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Please be safe out there. Thank you, Gloria, for those beautiful words. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.